So they get me ready for surgery. They wheel me down the hall. I said goodbye to my wife. The nurses get ready to push me over onto the surgical table. And just like that, next thing I know, Jesus is standing next to me. And Jesus looks at me and he holds out his hand and he says, I want to answer your prayer. And I thought, what is going on here? What is happening?
Was he in the hospital beside your surgical table?
He was actually physically standing next to me.
Oh, wow. And
that really kind of changed the way I viewed heaven. Because this was not a ghost standing there floating. It was physical Jesus standing with a white robe, dark hair, dark skin, eyes that were bluish green. And man, when he looked into my eyes, he looked into my soul. And that was what convinced me, this is Jesus. And so I'm confused, like, if I take his hand, am I dead? And then, and that's kind of going through my mind. I think I must have died somewhere along the line. Maybe I got to surgery, maybe I didn't, but I'm thinking I might be dead. But what choice do I have? What am I going to do? Say, no, Jesus, I'm good. I don't want to take your hand. I don't want to answer. I don't want to find out about this prayer that you said I'm asking for. But I ended up taking his hand. And as soon as I did, immediately we were standing on a grassy hill and everything's white. I mean, everything around me except the grass below me is just beautiful green. And my senses were heightened to the point where I could count every blade of grass that was under my feet. And I look off to my right. I'm still holding Jesus' hand. I look off to my right, and there's this bright white light that's brighter than all the rest of it. Everything there is white, super white. I can't see a thing. But I see this light, and this light all of a sudden starts sending out these things that look like fluorescent tubes. But they're like 2 feet long, maybe a little fatter than a fluorescent tube, and they start kind of slow, and they're going like this, coming from this light source. One of them starts coming at my forehead, and I thought, what do I do now? So I just stood there because I'm just so in awe of this light. It hits my head. It goes through me. It makes like a light buzzing sound as it's zipping through my head, and it warmed my entire body. So I thought, okay, this is weird. I mean, I'm still thinking like a regular guy. I'm still a human being thinking this is bizarre. And all of a sudden, all the brightness around me was like a curtain being pulled from my right to my left. So now it reveals there's the rest of the mountain that I'm standing on. There's a hill below me. There's flowers on the hill, not only grass, but there's some flowers. They're kind of wispy a little bit and maybe, moving a little bit like there's wind, but there's no wind. It's like pastel colors, like there's light purples and yellows and oranges. It's just beautiful flowers that go down this hill. At the bottom of the hill, the fog or whatever it was, the white stuff is settled on the valley below. And I can see that there's a city down there. It's a big city, but all I can see is the top of the buildings. So I see there's a big gold dome, like Capitol buildings have that round dome with maybe a point on it. And it was gold. And then there were other steeples, and it looked like tops of, the churches, old fashioned churches that have the big pointy, spires and all these things sticking out of the fog. Some of them are gold, but most of them are white. And then off on the other side of this city is another mountain. And they look like pine trees, but they're all perfect. And so the lights are still going. Above the pine trees are colors of the sky that it's hard to describe. I always say they're neon colors, but they're, bright red and orange, and there's a little bit of blue at the top, some wispy clouds.
So not blue skies like we're familiar with?
It was brighter. At the top was brighter blue, but there was all these other, really super bright colors. And it was like the most beautiful sunset I'd ever seen, but there's no sun. So I look back at at the light source, and these little fluorescent tube beam things are now going across the valley, and one of them hits the tip of one of the trees, the pine trees, and it's like it had a diamond on it, because when the light hit the diamond, it just exploded into these tiny little white streaks of light, and they start going everywhere. And then more of these things come along, and they hit more of the branches, and this stuff is just exploding. It's like bright white fireworks that are just going off everywhere. And I was like, wow, this is just unbelievable, with the light stuff going everywhere. And I look back at the light source, and Jesus says, "It's the glory of the Lord." And when he said that, I was like, I got weak in the knees, and I just couldn't stand. I just fell to my knees. And when I did, at the moment my knees hit the ground, they shocked me and brought me back. So the next thing I know is that's all gone. I'm laying in bed, in a hospital bed, and I have a doctor leaning over me. He says, "Do you know your name?" And I thought, okay, of course I know my name, but where's Jesus? Where's the scene? Where's heaven?